The NFL put out some data today that I was pretty interested in. Notably, Danny, I've been waiting to see what the numbers were on kickoff returns because, I was a huge proponent of the very ugly-looking, initially unaesthetic UFL, XFL, whatever we're calling it, kick return that we have now. My point was if we just wait a couple of years, people are going to stop caring that everyone's 5 yards apart, that it doesn't look like the old thing. We'll get used to that, and there's actually going to be returns and some exciting plays. I feel like that's already happened. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't really hear the complaining anymore. It could be that people just feel they've been defeated. But initially, all you heard about was how stupid it looked, how they didn't like it. No one was moving until the ball basically landed. There's a couple of nuances that maybe aren't popular or people don't like. But I think by and large, the kickoff has become a more normal-looking thing. You're used to it. And here's what really matters. Kickoff returns jumped to 74.5% this year. That was up from 32.8% last year. So less than a third of kicks were returned 1 year ago. This year, 3/4 of kicks were returned as they changed the rules even a little bit more, another 5 yards. The injury rate on kickoffs, according to the NFL's research, so you can buy that or not, the lowest that it has been under the previous rules at any point. So the injuries are down because you don't have the collisions of the full speed, full length of the field sprinting being done, and you're getting returns at a 3/4 rate. Seems like we're winning here.
It is indeed. Now, the thing that hasn't become second nature, this is a me issue, this is not the kickoffs issue, is I'm still not, I can't remember who I was watching a game with. A friend of my wife's was over for a few minutes. She popped her head in as one of the games was on. I think it was on Red Zone. Kickoff happens, and it didn't land in the landing zone. And she was like, so what happens then? I'm like, is that one the 30? Or is it the 35? If it goes out of bounds, it's the 40. I can't remember. So it's not intuitive yet, I think, for a lot of folks. I know myself included, but I think your point originally was that we will get there. We'll forget the old way after a couple of seasons of this, and you're already off to a really good start. Because my point was, I've said this about baseball before, with some of the rule changes or different things. If I've got to morph my game, if I've got to do a little bit of a funhouse mirror to what I'm used to get something that I want, I'm willing to do that. I know a lot of purists and traditionalists are not willing to do that. I'm perfectly fine having it look goofy for that kickoff number to come back. I like kickoff returns. I like punt returns. I want those as part of the game.
Yeah, I'd be curious if anybody listening wants to hop in to discuss kickoffs that originally maybe didn't like the rule change but has gotten over it or now sees the merits of it. You can call us at 800-636-1067, and I guess we'll keep the lines open as well for anybody that still does not like the new philosophy. For me, the goal should just be to have kick returns. We were perilously close to losing them altogether. We were at a point where, here's what happened. After a touchdown or to start a half, somebody would line up, kick the football with 10 of their teammates running down the field. The return team would just have a guy stand at the goal line, put his arms out and form a T.
I'm a teapot.
The ball would sail over his head end over end, and then it was 1st and 10 from the 25. That's what used to happen at about a 90% clip when it was all said and done on the old rule. That is boring and unnecessary. The reason they changed the length of the extra point to make it a 33-yard kick instead of what had become a 20-yard extra point from the 10-yard line was that nobody ever missed extra points. It was a useless play. It was futile. And correctly, Roger Goodell and the league said, why do we have a play where we already know the outcome? Why do we have a play that just wastes everybody's time? If you can get up and go to the bathroom, if you can get up and go get your snack and come back because you don't have to watch the play, we probably just shouldn't have the play.
That was the philosophy. We got 5 minutes that are boring. They fixed the first part first, the extra point, and then they fixed the second part second. Because you would go, touchdown, I can get up now and go. Extra point is pro forma. There's no mystery to it. There's nothing there. I'm going to miss the kickoff because it's going out of bounds. I've got 5 minutes to do whatever I want. No. The league can't afford that.
And
they're right.
What they actually changed the kickoff based on is health.
Yep.
Is injuries. I don't care as much about that as a consumer. I know that sounds terrible. I don't mean that I want anybody to get hurt, and obviously I don't. But what I'm saying is what I cared about was more returns. So when you started to change the rules and you now ruined the rate of returns, that's what happened, because you're trying to keep everybody safer, fine. You're making the football worse. They're trying to say, how do I make the football still good or better? How do I enhance the football and keep the injury rate low? I'm all for low injury rate. I have no problem with low injury rate. Who does? Just don't ruin the football. I mean, that's kind of, and I know that sounds awful, but let's be clear, that's what fans are thinking with some of the calls of the hitting of the quarterback, some of the calls of the hitting in the secondary of receivers. Let's keep guys safe. Let's protect players. Also, let's not ruin the game that we've all fallen in love with, and that these professional athletes who are grown-ups with a decision to make are opting into and saying they are willing to play. No one's making anybody play. But I think we've found a middle ground here that is working. And I hope that that is resonating with people, that, number one, it doesn't look that strange anymore. Did you at any point in the second half of this year, maybe it's just that they don't show it, from that aerial view or whatever, but when is the last time at the start of a game you've been like, oh, that looks weird? That was all people talked about in September a year ago. It's like, gosh, that's terrible looking. I think it's part of the fabric now. It's like a chair in the room.
I think
you don't even notice if it was there.
I think it's close. I think by the end of next year, because you're right, people on the socials were definitely saying that in September or August preseason games or whatever. But I think by the end of next year, people will have forgotten the old way. I mean that. Like I think it'll be gone. I mean, it took. Remember, I'm old enough to remember it used to be that if, let's say, Darius is on the sideline and I'm a defender, Darius catches the ball before he comes down in bounds. If I pushed him out of bounds, the referee used to go, we kind of think he's going to come down in.
Yeah.
That's a catch. And it was this unbelievably great adjustment to be like, no, let's actually reward the defender for being close enough to push the guy out of bounds. He's got to get the feet in. And it took a little while to remember that. Whereas people go, oh, he forced him out. It doesn't matter anymore. But like for a while, that was a big deal. And then it just became normal football, kind of like that. I think by the end of next year, no one will even remember or notice it. I think you're right.
There are some issues. I still think the onside kick has died, basically. I think we saw 3 conversions all year. I would get rid of the onside kick. You guys aren't ready for this one, but this is my next change, is we're going 4th and 18. We're just having one play where the offense is on the field, the defense is on the field, and if you get it, you keep the ball 1st and 10 from wherever you're tackled. If you don't get it, the defense takes over where they stopped you, basically, and that is the onside attempt. And then the other thing, and we talked about this throughout the year, you constantly see these graphics of scoring, percentage of drives that end in points, and these teams now, last year's Washington, this year's elite offensive teams, are among the 90th percentile ever. And it's because of field position, which has changed so dramatically. Now, that's not just based on these rules the last couple of years. It has slowly been happening. When I was a kid, 1st and 10 from the 20. When we're playing in my backyard, you kick off into the woods, and we go, all right, 1st and 10 from the 20. Then, I remember when it was 1st and 10 from the 25. Now, it's 1st and 10 from the 30, after a touchback, essentially. And plenty of the time, as you said, with not landing in the zone or kicking it out of bounds because you're trying to do angle stuff, it's 1st and 10 from the 40. So it's never been easier before based on starting field position, not to mention the K-ball change, where they now allow kickers to basically sleep with their football for a week and make it nice and soft to do whatever they want with it.
Yeah.
The length of kickers has changed exponentially over the last year. And so 60 is the new 50. You're already basically, if you get to the 45-yard line, you're in field goal range for the first time ever.
It's 2 first downs and you're in scoring range.
And you're starting further than you've ever started. So every drive should kind of result in a field goal almost if you get a couple of first downs now. So that's something they've got to consider. But I think by and large, this has been a gigantic victory, and you kind of hear that in the lack of complaining now. Let's go to the phones, 800-636-1067. Steve's in Maryland on Grant and Danny. We're live from Capital One Arena, Wizards-Lakers tonight. What's up, Steve? How are you?
Fellas, what's going on?
Hey, man.
Hey, real quick, Danny, are you still doing your comedy show in Baltimore?
I am, indeed. I'm leaving here right after to go to Hammer Jokes in Baltimore, hon.
Hammer Jokes. All right, I got to look that up because I've been looking for tickets and I could never find it anywhere. So Hammer Jokes, that's what you said, right?
That's the place.
Gotcha. All right,
dude. Thank you.
Grant, what you just said, that is a great idea. Get the ball 4th down, maybe like 4th and 15, start at the 25. You got to get to the 40. If you don't get there, hey, that's on you. But I love the kickoff. I was against it at first, but now seeing that we got more returns and stuff like that, and plus, like you said, Grant, we were really about to lose kickoffs not too long ago. So seeing how it turned out now, I love it. And
thank you, Steve. I mean, that's a real thing, by the way. Appreciate the call. I mean, that was on the table. Teams were suggesting that. What if we just didn't have a kickoff? There's no returns. It's kind of obsolete. I mean, my childhood, the first jersey I ever had was I don't even think there was a name on the back, but it was a burgundy and gold 30 because of Brian Mitchell.
Yep.
I still remember, we called it my side yard, but in King George County, we would all play in this little yard that I think of as this gigantic field, and now I look at it, and it's like a tiny little yard.
Like 15 by 20. Yeah.
But our side yard was where our football field was, because as kids, we could kick end over end high in the air as hard and far as we could, and field it and return it, and you could make people miss and run. And again, very normal size yard, but it felt like a football
massive,
field.
Yeah.
That's where I was Brian Mitchell on the kickoff. That was the most exciting play whenever we started a game was you got to kick it off or throw it off, and then you get to return. That was almost dead, and they have saved it. That's a win. You're doing a show tonight in Baltimore, he said?
I am.
How much shtick are you going to do about a Baltimore accent or Baltimore in general? You like to make fun of Baltimore a lot.
Yeah.
Is that going to come out?
Or? I don't know how it's going to go.
Okay.
I'll have to feel it out because usually what happens is I worked with this guy years ago in Canada, and and it actually resonates here in Baltimore, where there's nothing Canadians love more than Canada. You know what I'm saying? Their hockey teams are basically named after the state leaf or whatever, it's Maple Leafs. 3 different teams are actually just names for Canadians, the Canucks, the Montreal Canadiens. They're just basically all we're doing is we're the Canada Canadians. And that's kind of what Baltimore is too. It's they just want to hear about Baltimore. They love Baltimore. Sometimes good humor about it. Other times they don't want you talking about it. So I'll have to feel out the crowd a little, see what the openers do.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. You're an outsider. Are you allowed? It's one of those things I can make fun of my family, but it's weird if you do.
It's weird if you do. So
when you start doing Baltimore accent and talking about Natty Bows and the Orioles not spending money, do you annoy anybody? Is that going to work for everybody?
I used to go on 98 Rock all the time, back in the day, and that's all the hate they would get. All the angry calls were about when I was on. They're like, we don't want this DC guy coming on here telling us what for about Baltimore. He don't know nothing. And then, they wouldn't be on yet.
I think you should open with that.
Just start there.
Yeah. Trey in South Ballston on Grant and Danny. What do you make of the kickoff 75% return rate this year? Pretty good.
Man, Grant, I got to tell you, it's great, man. Everybody wants to see the kickoffs. They're exciting. And to your point about the field position, I think it makes the games more exciting in general because you have a lot more teams when they're in the red zone. They're just going to go for it anyway because honestly, you're probably giving the team better field position if you kick the ball off after a field goal.
It's been a thing.
Smart point, dude.
I wanted to pose one question to you guys, if it's okay. What do you think is Dan Quinn's floor in order to keep his job after this year? How many games does he have to win? Does he have to have a playoff win? What saves his job? Appreciate it, guys.
It's a great question. I'm writing it down. We'll answer it now, but it's also worth a topic next week, so I'm jotting that down.
You won't give us a topic for next week, caller.
You won't just produce the program.
You won't do it.
I'm going to get back to Dan Quinn in a second. We'll answer that. But the first part of the call on the kickoffs, he just made such a good point.
That's really smart.
I do think this is part of why more teams are going for fourth downs and plus territory, because it is an awesome thing now, and it's so rare to pin a team deep. So everyone's killing these coaches take the points, stupid. I love when these idiot coaches don't take the points because they go for the 4th and 1 at the 16 or the 14 or the 7 or whatever. You know what's dead? Having to drive 85 yards for a touchdown. Mm-hmm. You know what's dead is having on a cold playoff day, maybe there's wind, maybe you're the Patriots and you've been playing in snow and ice and sleet or whatever. You have to go march the length of the field, and a kick is no longer a lock because you're not indoors on carpet. I think a lot more coaches are thinking that way. If you kick off after a field goal, you get to 3 points, they're already almost in field goal range with a reasonable return, or let's just say no return, 1st and 10, dig route, catch with a 3-yard yak, fall to the ground, 18-yard gain, 21-yard gain, something like that. They're quite literally 6 yards from field goal range after that. So should I just still be programmed to think 3 points and a kickoff when it's more likely than ever they can get the 3 points right back? That's part of why I like the fourth down decisions now.
No, it makes good sense too, because one of the metrics, at least I'm sure there's new ones now that we're not privy to, proprietary stuff that teams use, but you think of something called expected points, right? In other words, if you go for it, your expected points goes up, theirs goes down based on field position. Well, I'm sure that's swung even more Because to your point, a minimum, let's say you're 4th and goal from the 3, you don't get it, they got to go 97 yards. If you get your 3, you kick off, they get it at 30-something, their expected points is already like 1.4, and it's a 1.6 difference before you've even lifted a finger. Now, I know football has to play out and things happen, but still, it's an analytical point that's really, really smart. I guarantee you that's been a factor in terms of that. The automatic field position, once you kick off, relinquish possession voluntarily, you're basically penalizing is the wrong word, but you're basically sacrificing, here's your 35, 40 yards, just for being you. Something to it.
Now, to his question, off the beaten path a little bit there when he asked, what is Dan Quinn's floor to keep his job? I am a little boring on these answers because I very similarly say this most off seasons when we talk about this. I don't think there's a hard and fast number. I think it's more anecdotal than statistical. I think it's more process than result in terms of what it's going to take for Harris's ownership group, the Hogs, or for Peters to feel like Quinn is the guy moving forward. But for the sake of the exercise, assuming that Jaden Daniels is healthier and looks closer to what he did in year 1 than year 2, and assuming the David Blau hire, maybe the Durante Jones hire a little bit too, but mostly the Blau hire looks like a good one at the end of this year. Those are 2 huge caveats. I think he'd survive 7-10. I don't think he would survive 6-11 because I also think to get to 6-11, you're going to have a bad Jaden Daniels season, either injuries or performance. Maybe not bad, but not year 1 type.
Right.
Like if he's playing anything like he did year 1, it's really hard to go 6-11. But I would say 7 wins with growth and health from Daniels. There's a path. 8 wins, I think there's a real good chance with those other variables. But the floor to me would be 7-10. Blau looks like the real deal. Daniels looks like the real deal. And if you want to tell me, well, if those 2 guys are the real deal, you shouldn't be 7-10. I agree with you. But I still think he would survive that.
So I took a slightly different tact while I was thinking about the answer to that question. It, to me, would be more, is there another Seattle situation where Jaden Daniels is hurt when you're down 25 or something like that that's foolhardy? Because I think we stumbled onto something. I think you had this first, and I'm going to give you credit for it, that you're talking about old Fanny Mouillet now, my emotion, my anger, my disappointment, my irritation, my frustration with this past season and how bad it was from a coaching perspective, where 2 coordinators are out of a job because of it, they don't feel the same way as an administration. This is not a Harris-Peters feeling. This is a Danny feeling. This is a fan feeling. And I think he's more secure than maybe we even realize. Now, you can't go 4-13 again, but I also think if they're just mediocre, I think he'll be fine, unfortunately, right? I think we're not as patient as they're going to be. I think if there's some kind of a, dude, I can't believe Jaden Daniels is in the game and you got him injured kind of narrative, then maybe the rug gets pulled. But I think Dan Quinn is safer than maybe we is in the public perceive him to be.
But if they go 5-12, he's not keeping his job.
You wouldn't think so.
The Wolves were at the doors this year a little bit. I mean, you're not doing that again and keeping your job. 10 guys just lost their jobs. Tomlin, Harbaugh, McDermott with a playoff win, verge of an AFC title game, if not for a quirky call. He lost his job. Let's go to Chris in Hyattsville on the Fan. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, guys. How are you doing?
Good, buddy.
I like kickoff returns. I like punt returns. So I'm excited that they have increased. I'm also not that upset about the field position because, the teams can try the little pooch kick, squib kick, or whatever. So, it goes both ways. But they have to make field goals more difficult. The team should not be rewarded for driving,
20 yards.
yards.
Right.
And then a guy can kick a field goal that's worth 3 points. It actually is counterintuitive. Football is supposed to reward the team who's best at penetrating the opponent's side of the field, getting closer to the goal line. Why is it that you get 3 points when you're 40, 50 yards away from the end zone, just as if you kicked the field goal if you were only 15 yards away from the end zone? If that's not the case, either make it more punitive for a missed field goal.
So I actually tend to agree with that. Let me ask you this. How would you do that? Like, what's an idea as to bring the value back to driving the football?
I don't know. Maybe like I would say you could shave a point off if you're outside of a certain distance, sort of like the opposite of a three-pointer in basketball, which I also hate. But to me, maybe it's the field position that happens after a missed field goal. Maybe you tack on yards to the opponent after a missed field goal because it's just not punitive enough now. Why not take a gamble and either take the air out of the ball,
I like the yard tackle,
make it less kicker-friendly, narrow the goalpost, make it more difficult, or do that crazy thing they do in arena football where they've got those big nets and you can play the ball off.
I get steam for the big nets.
You know what? You got some good ideas. I didn't know where you're going to go with any of these. Thank you, Chris. So I actually do like, first of all, narrowing the goalposts. I'm sure a lot of people will hate that because it's pretty extreme. And it's, it changes historically. We talk about the accuracy of kickers. But is that really going to keep you up at night if someone's not the most accurate kicker ever anymore?
No, it doesn't bother me.
I think the narrowing of the goalposts, like a yard on either side or something, maybe it's not overly noticeable sitting in the building, but so that the percentage of it's just a little bit harder now all of a sudden to kick from 55 or 60, that might work for me. I love the idea of the punitive back end. So in other words, right now you get the ball at the spot. So on a 60-yard field goal, you're kicking it from the 50-yard line.
Yep.
You would take over at the 50. What if you took over, where the kicker starts, lines up. So it's like another 5 yards. Normally it's like, you go back 3 over 2, whatever it is. Or if you added 5 yards from the spot, would that make more teams say, we're not kicking this long field goal? I don't like the shaving off of a point. I think that is too extreme. This is one of those things that's hard for me to explain, Danny. But with rule changes, there are just times where you feel like you jumped the shark and it's a little too arcadey.
When you start affecting the numbers,
yes.
To me, numbers are sacred. I understand his point also, by the way, he slipped it in there, but the three-pointer is such an outsized amount of import compared to the two that it's worth shooting a poor percentage because of how valuable they are. Plus, a certain percentage become offensive rebounds and subsequent twos, and it spreads the court. And analytically, it's the smartest shot you can make.
That's why everyone just stands around the perimeter now and hoists 3 all game.
It's 1.5 times more impactful. But when you start changing the sacred numbers of the game, the 7, the 3, the 2 for a safety, 1 for the extra point, it starts to mess with things a little bit too much for me. But I love the sentiment, honestly, of trying to discourage some of it. I mean, my answer, it's always been, and everyone laughs at me and calls me names, and you're welcome to do that, but I want to eliminate the specialization. I want it to be the way it used to be, where an athlete was also your kicker, where you cannot put foot to ball unless you were in for the previous however many plays. I want the days of Paul Horning, the quarterback, to
which is not a thing.
Which makes it way less specialized, and I think that would solve everything.
Sure, but
more football.
Not reality or going to happen, but that like your czar for a day thing, you'll bring that one up. But we are not. That ship has sailed, I guess. Not to be
so we don't even have a ship. We don't
overly
have parts for
dismissive.
A ship. We don't have anything.
But that's just not a thing. So we're dealing with what is. I think that the smaller field goal is really smart. I think an added bonus of yards for field position after a miss is good. And I'll say this. I would never vote for, like think of me as a congressman, a senator or something. I don't think I would ever vote for the changing of points. But if I woke up out of a coma in 20 years and you got like 4 points for a 60-plus or 3 points for a 60-plus yarder and only 1 point for a 25 or less and 2 points for 30 to – I don't think I would hate that. But I just think I'm not going to be the one to touch the button.
You do it like fantasy scoring?
Exactly.
But longer's not more points.
Yeah, but again, I would not be the one to change it because you are now tinkering with the real core of the game. But I think it would make a lot of sense. Like maybe it's 2, 3, and 4 or something because you already get 1 for an extra point. But it's like 2 points from inside of 30, 3 points 30 to 55 or something, or 50, and then 55 to 70 is 4 points. Like I would not actually hate that. I'm just not going to be the one to do it.
Well, we also know that every sports is in a quest for more points, except for hockey. They don't care about more points in games, but everybody else is excited about having more points. So I don't know that they're going to start limiting things. I think they're probably very excited about this new kicking development.